What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall markets. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward and talk about other factors involving the way the market's moving. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So looking at NIO, the 4 hours looking a little bit more bullish. However, we're approaching some very, very tough resistance in this 5.6 area. If we were to break this, we'd be looking for the next imbalances to fill, taking us a lot higher into the higher sixes. That depends on if we could break past 5.6 or not. There is potential for this to attempt to do so, but watch and see if we could break that for confirmation. If we fail to do so, you're looking at support at 5.31, and below that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about the low fives if that ends up failing. But so far, this is on a nice uptrend. It's attempting to hold its 20 EMA. There's a good chance it may attempt to go higher, but we'll see how it reacts to resistance. Now, for some news about the markets, I just want to mention that tomorrow is going to be Monday, September 16th, 2024. We have the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index at 8:30 a.m., which is very minor data. And then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions coming out. Once again, quite minor, so I'm not really expecting too much. The market is currently getting ready for FOMC in just a couple of days. There's a 50-50 chance between getting a 25 or 50 basis point cut. We're expecting some kind of cut, so we'll see what the Fed ends up saying. On top of this, when it comes to other pieces of data, when it comes to our earnings reports, this is what we're going to be looking out for the next couple of days. There's nothing too crazy, so just want to give that some highlights. Finally, as far as NIO goes, I didn't see anything too big on the news that came out, but don't forget that we're getting very close to the launch of our new product. There's been a lot of talk about how NIO has a lot of users who are once again connected, and they're continuing to be a very, very big company that's based off lifestyles. So that's what their main goal is, to be a lifestyle company and to encompass a lot of these different moments in life. So NIO is continuing to build this big community as they improve their products and more people travel with them. It's something that's worth noting and very, very big. For NIO, I just want to mention that overall we had above average volume. I know it's not showing right now, but our volume was actually quite good on Friday. Short volume is decreasing as more buyers stepped in. And finally, JP Morgan and Bank of America's securities are neutral / bullish on the share price. So what do I see going into tomorrow? I think that there's going to be an attempt to test 5.6. If we could break that 5.6 area, we're looking for a bigger push towards 5.8 and eventually $6. If we reject off that resistance, we're going to be tipping back down towards that 5.31 area. But overall, when you look at, for instance, the daily time frame, the daily looks a little bit more bullish on you. If we could try to break past this 5.6 area, there's going to be a nice push coming. If we end up rejecting off this resistance, we could be dipping. But in my personal opinion, you have a nice double bottom that's forming here. If we break the 200 EMA, there's going to be a bigger pump coming. We'll see if that ends up being the case or not going into tomorrow, but there is some potential for this to attempt to do so. There could be a lot of excitement going into our very important FOMC meeting, not to mention other factors like that, but I still think the share price still has potential and it's doing a good job. Now, on the other hand, I don't think the same thing about the overall market quite yet. I think there is upside potential for after FOMC, but I'm not going to guarantee that yet. For now, we're looking at this resistance. SPY is getting very close to the all-time high, but just know that every time we hit 563 to 565 historically, SPY has rejected. So it's going to be a very tough resistance we're entering. So I think what's going to happen is we might not just crack past 565 very easily. We could push a little bit higher, maybe try to retest 564. And there should be a dip coming. We might be making our way back down towards 558, if not a little bit lower. If that does not hold, I think we're just going to consolidate in this range for the time being between the mid to high 550s as support, and then the 565 to 563 areas are resistance zone. So I think we're just going to be attempting to get a little bit higher before we start dipping back down towards 558, continuing to consolidate in this range. I find that that's to be the most likely possibility. For Nvidia is looking very interesting to me. We have a nice looking cup-like structure, but we're consolidating between 120 and 118. If 120 breaks, we're looking for 122, and if we end up losing 118, we're looking for a dip. I'm starting to believe this might dip just a little bit right before FOMC. We might be retesting 118. If it doesn't hold us, we could dip a little bit more and just consolidate for the time being before making attempts to bounce later on. But look for a little bit of a dip to 118, if not 115, before we try to rebound. For Bitcoin, we have a high coming down from a lower high. This could be dipping back down towards our EMAs. I think 59,400 to the lower 59,000s could be coming before this attempts to go higher. But the overall trend is bullish, making higher lows. Could dip first before it tries to bounce, so give that some time. For ES is looking, in my opinion, bullish overall. We could dip a little bit if we end up getting rejected or if we end up losing the 5,630 area. If that fails us, we're looking for basically the lower 5,600s before we try to rebound and push higher. So for now, we'll be watching to see how this ends up dipping. For Tesla is looking at this 230 area as our resistance and also at 235. In my personal opinion, although we're attempting to pump, we're not really looking for any much of a change until we can try to break past 235. So it's going to remain choppy until then. Look at this resistance in this 230 area, if not 235. We might just shuffle around this range in the 230s, come back down and reject and just continue to trade sideways. I presume that's what's going to happen for the next couple of days approaching FOMC. Look for a little pop into the 230s, a dip back down towards 226, maybe a little bit lower. We could retest our 20 EMA at around 225 before we come back up and just continue to consolidate in this range. I think that's what we're going to most likely do approaching FOMC, and we'll see what that leads to. For NQ has resistance at 19,600. We could attempt to go a little bit higher to about 19,700. It could go a little bit higher, but I don't think it's going to go much higher from here. We might push a little bit more to 19,600 and come back down to 19,500. If that does not hold us, we could be dipping back down towards the 19,250 area and then start to consolidate in this range for some time. I think that's what could be happening to NQ for the time being. I think momentum is slowing. So we pushed a little bit. We could go a little higher before we dip back down, consolidate. Then we'll see if we get a bounce or not. For the QQQ, we have this resistance around this 475 area, and we have the support to watch for around 473. Not to mention for basically 467, excuse me. So I think that the QQQ has had some tough resistance at 475. If it does break, we could get closer to 477, but I'm not counting on that. What I think is going to happen is we're already at resistance. We're going to start to consolidate around this 475 area. Then there could be a little bit of a dip coming. I think that we could push a little bit higher than dip back down. And we could be looking for a retest of the 468 area or so. And we might just consolidate approaching FOMC. I think Aapl will do the same thing. We could be dipping on Monday. We could be retesting 222. If that does not hold, we're going back down to 220. And we might just consolidate as well from there. For the IWM, we're at this resistance. We're doing a good job at outperforming the markets. Could dip a bit and start trying to rebound. I think we might be pushing a little higher for 217.68. We'll see if that breaks or not, but I think we could get close to 217. And we'll see if we reject or not, but there is still some upside potential. Amazon is starting to dip a little bit. If we don't hold 186, we're looking for 184, if not 182.6. And then we'll see if we bounce off that. Look for a little bit of a dip and we'll see how it reacts. Meta may also dip a little bit, so we could be retesting 519 to 516 before we try to rebound. Microsoft could also continue to push. We'll have to see if 430 could hold. If it holds above this, we remain bullish. If we lose 430, we could be dipping back down to 427, so we'll see. Google's also, it's been pushing quite nicely, but we're hitting some tough resistance at this the 160 area. If that rejects, we're looking for basically 157 followed by 155. So we could dip into that range before we try to rebound, but give this the time it needs. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. As far as the market goes, I think there might be a little bit of a tough test of resistance. I think resistance is going to be kind of tough, and a lot of tickers may actually cool down just a little bit before we see some consolidation. Whether or not this continues depends on FOMC. So as far as NIO goes, I think we're going to be testing this resistance at 5.6. If this breaks, we're going to be squeezing into the much higher levels like the high fives, getting close to $6. If you reject, we're looking for 5.31, followed by lower levels. There is upside potential for this. We could be looking for 5.6, if not getting closer to the $6 area. We'll see if resistance breaks. I believe that there's potential in this chart as long as you hold above our 20 EMA, and we'll see if that holds or not if you can try to break this resistance. If it does break, there's going to be a bigger push coming. We do look more bullish for the time being, and I do see potential in this, but resistance at 5.6 is very, very tough, so we have to give it some time. Hopefully we do break this and start pushing closer to $6. There is potential in the chart to remain more bullish, but we'll see how it goes. With that being said, I thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys very soon in another update video tomorrow. Until then, there's not really much coming out for the markets until FOMC, so be patient to do what you have to do. Thank you for listening, and peace out.